How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Mars 1000. Today is January 4th, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about this potential snowstorm that's going to impact the Midwest as well as the Mid-Atlantic headed into this week, and we'll talk about the multiple snowstorms that are going to come off the Pacific Northwest. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by first taking a look at my forecasted snowfall map for this mid-Atlantic snowstorm, which also includes the Midwest. And as you can see, we have a pretty broad area of 1 to 3 inches throughout the Midwest. This extends from northern Kansas to Nebraska and even to the Dakotas, where you could see even more snow in these areas of 3 to 6 inches right around South Dakota. Since there's going to be a little bit more convection in that area, there's going to be a little bit more convergence. South Dakota is going to be very close to where that convergent energy is, where a lot of the convection will occur, and as a result, we're going to see a lot more condensation, precipitation in this area, which will allow for heavier snowfall in South Dakota. However, the snowfall is expected to increase as it heads to the Mid-Atlantic, more specifically the higher elevations, which include North Carolina and portions of West Virginia and Virginia, where you could see up to a foot of snow in the higher elevations of the Appalachian Mountains, and we could see around 3 to 6 just in the slightly lower elevations, and then a more broad area of 1 to 3, which extends to more of the populated sector of the Mid-Atlantic, which includes Richmond, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and even portions of the Delmarva Peninsula and southern New Jersey. So you need to watch out for that headed into this week, and more specifically late during the week in the Mid-Atlantic, since this low pressure is expected to move further south and to the east headed into Friday. So you guys need to keep in watch of that. So your questions might be, what is the potential that we could see maybe a potentially bigger snowstorm in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast going into the late week, where we could maybe see more than a foot and even more extending for a larger area in the Mid-Atlantic? Well, there's several factors that will need to happen for a more expansive area of more snow to occur. So first thing is that this low pressure needs to be stronger, because for one thing is that this low pressure is going to move fairly southward, and it's going to be mostly weak for the most part, and it isn't going to be very strong, since there isn't going to be a ton of instability for this thing to work with. As you can see, while there is a jet stream dip, it's going to develop too late off the coast of the Mid-Atlantic, and by that time it's most likely that the low pressure system is going to be well offshore of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast to create a potentially major snowstorm in the Northeast. However, what could change that is the position of this ridge that's currently over the eastern half of the Atlantic Ocean, which is typical for a ridge to build in that area. That's a Bermuda ridge that's always over Bermuda, around the Bermuda vicinity. So however, that position of the ridge will be key in determining the track of the storm. Let me expand the view a little bit to include more of the Atlantic Ocean, and you see that there's a pretty big ridge in the eastern Atlantic, and that'll be huge in determining the track of this storm, because if this ridge is a little stronger and it's a little bigger, then that means a jet stream dip will be a little bit more pronounced. And as you know, when we see a jet stream dip that's a little bit more pronounced, that's a little bit more defined, we see a more of a southerly to northerly direction in terms of the lower level and upper level winds in the jet stream, rather than straight eastward to westward direction in the jet stream winds. And as that southerly wind changes to right around the Atlantic, there's more of a chance that this storm will move from a southerly to northerly direction, as opposed to a westerly and easterly direction. So we just have to wait and see what will happen over the next several days, how this ridge builds up in the eastern half of the Atlantic over the next several days, and it's going to be very key and important to determine that forecast going into over the next several days. And mid in terms of the Midwest, it seems unlikely that you're going to see much more of a major snowfall threat than what is forecast right now, because there just isn't going to be enough unstable air for this thing to work with to create more convection in the Midwest, which would be key in determining how much snow you guys will get. And there just isn't going to be enough unstable air, so it's unlikely that you're going to experience much more snowfall in the Midwest headed into this week. But still, 3 to 6 inches is expected for a broad area, so you need to watch out for that, because only 3 to 6 inches is enough to cause havoc on the roadways, especially when it falls in a very fast rate. So I want you guys to keep in mind that snowfall could fall fast, since this storm is going to move relatively fast along with the jet stream. And let me zoom in a little bit to the United States map so you guys get the better picture and see the forecast map in a little more detail. So let me move to the rainfall and snowfall map, and you see that it's going to move relatively quickly, because the low pressure is going to be here right around southern Canada, and then it'll move further southward right around 48 hours, and then by 60 hours from now, it's already in Mississippi pretty much. It's moved far south and in a very fast pace. So it's going to move relatively quick to dump much snow. And obviously, it's going to be fairly weak for the most part. There won't be an expansive swath of snow that'll swallow up the Midwest. So there shouldn't be a lot of snow from this. However, the potential of a heavy snowfall threat increases as we head further into the forecast days, because obviously the computer models, as we go later during the computer model forecast run, it gets a little bit more tricky to forecast it, since computer models base their forecasts off of historical data, and there's only so much historical data can do when predicting beyond 3 days from now. And it gets a little bit limited, the forecast, when we're talking about a forecast 3 to 5 days from now. And also, I do believe this has a bigger potential of bringing more snow in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, because there's more likely of a chance we're going to see more instability. It's going to be closer to the warm Gulf Stream water, and as that cold air filters in over that warm Gulf Stream water, there's more of that potential we're going to see more convection and thunderstorm activity, which would strengthen the storm and obviously enhance the snowfall threat. However, as of right now, it seems like it's going to be too far offshore to be a major snowfall threat for the Northeast, and it'll miss out for the most part entirely. And in the more mid-Atlantic states like North Carolina and Virginia, especially in the eastern portion, I think it's going to be too warm for that snowfall to really accumulate for, I would say, east of Charlotte, North Carolina. So I don't expect much more snow in the eastern half. However, there's still a lot of days out, and we still need to iron out the forecast of where this ridge builds, because if this ridge builds a little bit further to the west, then there's more likely of a chance we're going to see more snow right around mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So just stay tuned to your local forecast. And outside of this potential snowstorm in the Midwest and Northeast, we also need to keep track of this Northwest Pacific storm, which will impact the Northwest Pacific going into this week. And we're going to see multiple low pressure systems come off the Northwest Pacific. And if you take a look at the northern Pacific Ocean, you're going to see that there's a lot of mid-latitude cyclones spiraling around the northern Pacific, and those low pressure systems will spiral into the United States, and there's going to be weakness in the ridging right around southern California, which will allow a lot of those low pressure systems to move to the Northwest Pacific, and it's going to dump a lot of snow in the higher elevations. Let me show you guys the current snowfall forecast based off the GFS model. Again, this is assuming that 1 inch of rain equates to 10 inches of snow. So if we take a look here, going around 120 hours from now, you see that many areas in the highest elevations, you could see over a foot of snow, and a pretty large area of 3 to 6 or 6 to 12 inches throughout the higher elevations of Rocky Mountains. And this even extends to the mountains of California. So it could be a good skiing week for a lot of you guys. So you might be able to enjoy it thanks to the multitude of snowstorms coming off Northwest Pacific. And that's definitely a good thing to see when we're for skiers, when we're seeing a lot of storms come off the Northwest Pacific, because that obviously means a lot more snow. And in the Cascades, you could see up to 40 inches, maybe up to 4 feet of snow in the extreme higher elevations, which is just amazing how much snow you guys are forecasted to get over the next 5 days. And it's gonna be interesting to see, because who knows what could be happen beyond 5 days with these low pressure systems coming off the Northwest Pacific. If we take a look at the Arctic oscillation, you see that we're deep in the negative phase, and that means that there's going to be quite a dip in the there's going to be quite a lot of dips in the jet stream over the next several weeks, since we're in the negative phase. And what a negative Arctic oscillation phase means is that there's a weaker than typical low pressure system in the northern Atlantic, and also weaker high pressure that's typically weaker than average in the mid-Atlantic. So that means that the jet stream winds are typically more weaker, and as a result, the westerly winds are weaker, which means that the cold Arctic air in Canada is more likely to meander southward rather than go eastward along with the westerly winds. So that means that we're more likely to see cold blasts and more snowstorms in the United States over the next several weeks, thanks to this negative Arctic oscillation. And that's definitely something to keep in mind all throughout the United States. While there aren't any major just expansive snowstorms just yet in the United States this week, it could happen in the future, and I want you guys to keep that in mind headed into this week. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and I hope you guys have a good day, a good night, a good morning whenever you're watching this.